From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's get right to it this morning, live from the heartland in the shadow of Detroit. Very cold. It's 0. It's a frigid day here, kicking off on the brand new day on the Steve Gruber Show, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Always makes me ask, who do you want in your foxhole? Now more than ever, you need to figure that out. A lot of work to do, so let's get to it. 3 big things this hour. Number 1, the Democrats, led by the likes of Hakeem Jeffries, have now admitted their entire campaign this year is they will prosecute everyone in the Trump administration and attack the Supreme Court. Yeah, I've got that coming up. Number 2, the upheaval in Minneapolis has gone so far that former disgraced CNN anchor Don Lemon, among those that stormed a church there to intimidate the congregation on Sunday. I'm not sure they understand how bad this looks. And number 3, speaking of that, the Democrats have no moral compass. They lie, they fail, and then they blame everyone else around them. When Trump succeeds, they attack, even when they're attacking their own policies. The internet's great because Democrats can try to obfuscate and blame everything on Trump, but all it takes is a quick internet search to remember all the lies that leaders like Barack Obama told us. For instance, on Obamacare, I just want to remind people again and again as I go to the vault. Here's a quick summary of all the promises made and then broken. Listen.
It will actually reduce the deficit by $4 trillion over the long term. Reducing the waste and inefficiency in Medicare and Medicaid will pay for most of this plan. It will slow the growth of healthcare costs for our families, our businesses, and our government. There will be a provision in this plan that requires us to come forward with more spending cuts if the savings we promised don't materialize.
And, of course, he delivered on none of those promises, not one. Instead, he gave us a broken, bloated system the Democrats are blaming Trump and the Republicans for. Of course, like I said, no moral compass. And it turns out that living in an alternate reality where you can just live and lie and blame everyone else but yourself, it does a number on your mental health. It does. Just listen to these experts who conclude that Democrats and their followers are quite literally crazy. Here it is.
Women are, especially liberal women, are not doing well. You see the highest rates of mental illness among single liberal women. And it's because it's a philosophy that pits women against their own bodies and against their own children. Feminism coaches women to reject their bodies, reject the natural realities, especially of their fertility, especially of their reproductive capacity.
Truth has become a right-wing concept. You cannot say it, because if you say it, you are considered right-wing. And to be right-wing is to be in league with the forces of evil. Education was turned from being the transmission of a culture down through the generations into the overturning of a culture on the basis that the culture was illegitimate, racist, colonialist, and all the rest of it. And we are where we are.
Yeah. There is a direct correlation between the rise of mental illness in this country and adolescent girls and their increasing liberal identification. 77% of conservative parents report good or excellent mental health of their kids. 77%. As opposed to just half of liberal parents. Liberal women are almost 3 times more likely to report loneliness multiple times a week than their conservative counterparts. 37% of conservative women report being satisfied with their life. Just 12%, 1 in 10 basically, of liberal women, because conservative women take reality for what it is, while liberal women live in a world of their own. One constructed by a feminist propaganda machine that seeks to make every situation one in which they are the victim. They're the victim. Liberal women are so delusional sometimes they find themselves defending sex predators just because someone on Instagram told them ICE agents are a bunch of kidnappers. Here's another example.
So you're reporting, we're here to arrest a child sex offender. And you guys are out here honking.
Oh, we're not. No, we're press.
That vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. Insane.
Insane. The Democrat Party really is a party of misery. They have lost the plot. That extends beyond the liberal white women. If you listen to Chuck Schumer, and I'm sorry if you do, it seems that the current party is now pro-fraud, pro-wasteful spending, and anti-transparency. Oh, Chuck.
If you look at the budget actually we're working on right now, and we'll have the T-HUD budget, transportation and HUD budget, we restore most of the cuts and even go higher than previous years on many of the programs that DOJ slashed. When I met our nominee for HUD secretary, then he was nominee, he talked a nice game, but he doesn't seem to have the clout to make those views prevail over the DOJ people, over the cut people. But we have worked really hard in the budget and gotten bipartisan support to increase these amounts and undo a lot of the cuts, which are essential.
Now, the new Democratic policy is pretty simple. Oppose everything and anything that President Trump does, even if that puts him on the side of discrimination, war, and fraud. The plan was, is, and always will be to silence dissent. Silence! Here's what I mean.
Part of what we're going to have to do is to start experimenting with new forms of journalism and how do we use social media in ways that reaffirm facts, separate facts from opinion. We want diversity of opinion. We don't want diversity of facts. That, I think, is one of the big tasks of social media. By the way, it will require some government, I believe, some government regulatory constraints around some of these business models in a way that's consistent with the First Amendment.
He doesn't care about the First Amendment. Regulatory constraint. Translation, silence. We will silence you. Funny the left keeps saying something about democracy dies in darkness, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. Democracy is far more likely to die from deceit peddled by the left than by any of the ways that people like Barack Obama keep predicting. Apparently, he doesn't understand that government regulatory constraints cannot be consistent with the First Amendment. Or just as likely, he does understand that, but he doesn't care. He's counting on his listeners to just swallow whatever he says whole. And who does he want those regulatory constraints used against? The usual crowd. Those he disagrees with, those he demonizes. Here he is again.
There is a difference between these platforms letting all voices be heard versus a business model that elevates the most hateful voices or the most polarizing voices or the most
Enough. Who decides what's hateful? Because I know he hates conservatives, he hates President Trump, he hates the MAGA movement, so you can figure out who he thinks should be silenced and not elevated. We'll have a lot more on this coming up. Good morning to you. This is The Steve Gruber Show. Again, let's ask the question. There's Barack Obama out there saying we need a new experiment in journalism. No, we don't. We just need real journalism. Who decides what is hateful? Who decides what constitutes inciting violence? Because I know that Obama was the great racial divider inside much of the left of violence over the last dozen years or more, but he's never been kicked off X or anywhere else. And that's fine. The American people should get to decide who they listen to. I believe in the First Amendment. He can say whatever he wants, but so can I. They need to practice discretion, however, and common sense when listening to people with large platforms. That's actually what makes X great. The people who can think for themselves can even contribute to community notes, fact-checking popular voices who make false claims. But that's not good enough, is it? Democrats need to keep conservatives from making good points at all. True, good points like Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's lesson on Denmark's treatment of Greenland. They definitely don't want you to hear this. Listen.
And annex all of Greenland, something that 85% of people living in Greenland oppose.
Well, again, and let's look back. Denmark has a terrible history with Greenlanders. There was forced sterilizations up until the 80s or the 90s. So all of a sudden, now that the U.S. has expressed an interest, there is this new interest. And again, the United States needs to be in control to prevent a war, and that we do not want to get dragged into someone else's war.
I agree with that. I don't want somebody else's war. Now, if we're up to Barack Obama, Secretary Bessent would never have the mic. Never. If we're up to other Democrats, they would just jail and prosecute every person who ever disagreed with them. Obviously, that's not news. It's what they tried to do with Trump. But listen to me closely. They will come after conservatives with a vengeance we've never seen before if they get the majority next year during the midterms. They will be drunk with power. And that's not fear-mongering. I'm just telling you exactly what they're already saying themselves. Listen to this Democrat consultant on the game plan. Here it is.
Yes. Blue tsunami means that Congress is going to haul Elon Musk, big balls, and a bunch of other people's ass in front and say, what crimes did you commit? And it's going to get really serious. And the same with Trump, because I believe, and this is just my opinion, that Trump and all of the bottom-feeding morons surrounding him and Elon Musk and all the bottom-feeding Klingeroners that surround him, I think they commit crimes every day. And I think to reconcile all of this is going to take hardcore, not integrity Democrats. You Democrats, you for our country. We are serious about this. We are prosecuting. We're going to uncover every document, every phone call, everything you did. We will be relentless about it. And that's the mindset they've got to have, because I think the electorate is going from, we've got to get him out, but also we want accountability.
There has to be accountability. You have to have a situation where there's...
Jim Acosta. Oh, and a special good morning to all you bottom-feeding morons. Just want to say hi. How you doing? That's a lot of hate right there. A lot of hate. And a real lack of self-awareness. To be talking about accountability when we still have yet to see anyone from that party held accountable for the Russian collusion hoax and 12 other scandals I could name. These are the same people who blast Trump for even mentioning that hoax, and a hoax it was. And they say he should just be focused on the future, not the past. Rules for thee, not for me. These people are unhinged, completely unmoored from the truth. And the comedian George Carlin explains it perfectly why that is. This is from the archives, but please enjoy.
When your identity is your ideology, congratulations, you've officially screwed yourself, because now it's not just an idea, now it's you. And when the idea gets challenged, you don't hear disagreement, you hear an attack. So what do? You build a bubble. A nice, soft, padded little bubble where everyone agrees with you, uses the same words, hates the same people, and claps at the exact right moments. And you will defend that bubble at all costs, even if it makes you sound incredibly stupid. Facts don't matter anymore. Logic's gone. Humor? Dead. Because admitting you're wrong would mean admitting you are wrong, and that's unacceptable. So you double down. Louder, angrier, dumber. And that's how you end up defending nonsense like it's sacred scripture, not because it's true, but because without it, you'd have to actually develop a personality.
You're going to want to replay that one a few times. This is the pattern plain as day. Lie, fail, blame, repeat. Lie, fail, blame, repeat. When confronted with reality, Democrats don't correct course. They double down. Silence dissent, smear anyone who refuses to play along. Truth is their greatest enemy because it exposes the rot beneath the rhetoric. A party that survives on deception can't tolerate accountability, debate, or a free marketplace of ideas. And that's why they fear President Trump, fear conservatives, and fear platforms where facts cannot be buried. They fear you. America doesn't need their misery, their censorship, or their moral emptiness. We need truth, courage, and leaders grounded in reality, no matter how loudly the left screams otherwise. Welcome to a Truth Platform. We're here for you every day. Strength isn't just about lifting weights, it's about immune strength, recovery, staying sharp as we age. And that's why I've partnered with Longevity Wellness. Their nutritional shake mix delivers protein, collagen, omega-3s, and gut-supportive nutrition all in one scoop. It tastes great, easy, and it's made for real people from real ingredients who want to live stronger and live longer. Easy to check out. Check it out now at longevitywellness.co/Gruber. One more time, that's longevitywellness.co/Gruber. If you use the promo code Gruber10, you're going to save 10% on your order today. So go there. We've been using this. In fact, we were skiing all weekend. The conditions are spectacular in Michigan. Oh, there's not a lot of snow out west. We've got it all in spades. Today it's 0 degrees at the studio and a little bit of snow still falling. More snow to come. My son, teenage son, drinks Longevity before and after his days on the ski hills. Keeps him strong. He loves it. Keeps him healthy. Keeps him going. LongevityWellness.co. Check it out. You're going to be glad you did. We've got a lot to cover here today, so stay with us. We'll take a break and be right back. It is The Steve Gruber Show. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to talk at length about this assault, this invasion of a church in Minneapolis over the weekend. Agitators came in, disrupting Sunday service, took over the whole place, which, by the way, is a violation of the FACE Act. It defends the right to worship. You can't just invade a church and start screaming at people and taking over and disrupting things. I saw a guy on social media who said, yeah, try that in a black church. Said, you won't get past the aunties in the front row. They'll beat you down with their purses. Anyhow, these people are very polite. Don Lemon, one of the folks leading this charge, the disgraced former CNN anchor who was fired from CNN for being a twit. I think that was the official firing. You're a twit, you're fired. I think that was what was on the document. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure. Alina Habba, Trump's former attorney now in the Department of Justice, says the DOJ will come down hard after that anti-ICE mob disrupted that church. It's an interference of the FACE Act, a longstanding federal statute that prohibits force, threats, obstruction of any kind, or interference with the religious place of worship. It carries serious criminal penalties and violations. Don Lemon, ever since, says he was committing an act of journalism. Don Lemon wouldn't know an act of journalism if it smacked him in the face. Sorry, but that's true. He wouldn't know it if it smacked him in the face. You need good vitamins every day. You do. I'm looking at the wrong place again. There you go. Let's see here. My Pure Health. You want to lose weight and feel great? Let me be blunt. If weight loss was a one-size-fits-all, you would have worked on it by now. No shots, no pills, no potions, no lotions. This is all natural. My Pure Health Solutions. I did it back in 2018. Glad I did. Changed my life, put me on a better path. Then, of course, Ivy's here to help me out every day. But if you want to lose weight, you want your own health coach, you want to get it done in 40 days, this is the place to be. Go to gruberhealth.com. Men lose up to 40 pounds in 40 days. Women, 30 pounds in 40 days, depending on what your situation is. They build a custom plan just for you, a custom plan. It's the new year. If you want to enjoy looking in the mirror, you want to just feel better, feel healthier, get rid of the aching joints, go to gruberhealth.com. A custom plan, and all my listeners get a big discount today. gruberhealth.com. It's free to go check it out, and so is your consultation. gruberhealth.com. I'll be right back. All right, let's just jump right back into it, shall we? Always trying to get you to be the most educated consumers of media anywhere. We're not interested in censorship. We're interested in having a conversation with everybody. My next guest, Dan Doyle, is an oil industry insider, author of Roughnecks and Riches, a startup in the great American fracking boom, and president of Reliance Well Services at Arena Resources. Dan, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Appreciate it.
I look at oil almost daily. I look at gas prices, which have been creeping up for the last week. Not sure why that is, but for the most part, the oil prices, since we plucked Maduro out of Caracas, Venezuela, they haven't really changed. West Texas Intermediate, 59.5. Brent crude, the bench standard, 64.14. They haven't moved in weeks or months. They've pretty much been in that same range for a long time. Why no impact? Why no reaction?
Well, there was a kind of a knee-jerk reaction as expected in the oil markets, Steve, when it was first announced, but it died down almost immediately because the truth about Venezuela is there's going to be no quick rush to additional production. The oil fields there are really in poor shape. Maduro's gone, but the military's still there. They mostly run it with mostly the fingerprints are all over the National Oil Company. Chevron's in there, but it's primarily the government, and there's not a whole lot we can do right away to increase production. And the majors are going to be real slow about going in this time. They've really been burned in the past.
You know, I heard that when they were all gathered there at the White House for their roundtable with President Trump here a week or two ago. They said, look, we'll invest when it becomes more of a sure thing. I mean, they've invested in the past. Chevron's been there since the 1920s. They never actually left, but most of the other majors did. The United States and those companies built the infrastructure beginning in the mid-1920s and built it out over years and years. But a lot of that was destroyed in the last 5 or 10 years by the dictator. So it does take a lot of time to rebuild this. This is a different kind of oil. It's not what we get from fracking. It's not what you get from Saudi Arabia. It's a heavier, thicker crude. It takes specialized equipment that needs a lot of build out and a lot of maintenance, correct?
Oh, yeah. Well, interestingly, the first thing that came out of the administration, Chris Wright, who is a fracker at the Department of Energy, the head, used to run a company called Liberty, really well qualified guy. He said, "Hey, we're going to get diluents back into the country." They got blocked with sanctions, but the diluents are required to thin the Venezuelan crudes, the heavy crudes, and without them, production fell. So he's thinking they can increase production 200,000 or 300,000 barrels a day, kind of on the quick, but it's a 105 million barrel market. 200,000 or 300,000 barrels is kind of a drop in the bucket. So other than that, it's going to take real investment. A lot of people, the number that gets thrown around is $100 billion. It'll probably be more. But all the steam floods that were in place to move the oil and water floods and all the kind of things that fall under the category of tertiary recovery, all of it just kind of rotted away. It was, there was no capital reinvestment. It was all, I guess, going to Maduro and his friends military guys who are still there. So we have to wait and see what plays out.
So you do believe, though, Dan, that we're going to slide back into Venezuela. We're just going to do it on a cautious timetable. I mean, there's no question we're going back in. Look, the Americans and the majors built these refineries on the Gulf Coast specifically for Venezuelan oil. And so there was a symbiotic relationship there for decades. It's going to come back, I believe. But look, there's uncertainty in Venezuela. We don't know how the government's going to play out. We don't know how all these things are going to, end up settling it down. But there will be a return to that relationship, I believe, from what I read from analysts and hear from folks like yourself. It just won't happen in a week or two. It might take a year or two, right?
It'll probably take maybe a little longer, Steve. So you'll see some progress, but it could take longer. But you have Darren Woods from Exxon twice burned through nationalizations. A lot of money lost, billions of dollars. Their final claim now is an arbitration court of some sort is $1 billion, but their losses have been more. But Darren Woods said at that meeting that Venezuela was, for the most part, uninvestable. So there's just a lot of, the politics of it, have to be sorted out. The security, they're going to look for the U.S. government to backstop their investment. That'll be a lot of people will scream about that. But should they be able to get it done? Venezuela could return to being a prosperous country. My mother, back a long, long time ago, went on a vacation to Venezuela with her parents, and so we're talking, 50s, for late 40s maybe. And it used to be a wonderful place, and then socialism took foot, and that was that, and ended.
So, what do you think then? Where are we headed energy price wise? Like I said, gas prices are creeping up a little bit, but looking over historical gas prices in America, they're pretty good right now. But America runs on vast quantities of cheap energy. It what fuels our economy. We have to have it. And we don't really need the Venezuelan oil at this point because of frackers like Chris Wright and others. We've created an energy boom in America over the last 20 years that's unparalleled. Right. We have more energy than anybody. So it's nice, but it's not really that important to us, is it?
No, it's not needed. What happened? Oil prices. The OPEC unwound some voluntary cuts they had made post pandemic. A couple of years back, they put about 2 million more barrels on the market over the last 12 months or so, and that just was the kind of the nail in the coffin for lower prices. So we're in a surplus period right now. My feeling, and I think it's shared by most people, is the surplus will work its way through the system over time, and next year or late this year, you'll see prices starting to rebound some. But what's happening right now is people are going to start laying, or already have, but it's going to get worse, laying down rigs. Uh, it's especially on the oil side, most drilling rigs in America, North America, are oil and not natural gas. But you're going to see this happening. In fact, Harold Hamm, the founder of Continental, kind of a guy of great stature in our industry, multi-billionaire, did it on his own.
Yep, sure did.
Youngest kid of 13 kids. Sharecropper out of Oklahoma, did a great American story. He just laid down all his rigs or is about to lay down all his drilling in North Dakota, and that's the first time in 30 years. So these low oil prices will result in higher oil prices later. As an oil guy, I own a frac company and a oil drilling company. We'd all just like oil to stay at a reasonable level, because the highs, sure, you might make more money, but things get more difficult. The lows, you just got to hunker down, kind of like right now, and wait it out, and it's inefficient.
It reminds me, way back in the day, Dick Cheney said we can't have oil below $20, and people, oh, look, he's an oil guy. No, it puts people out of business. If it's too low, people shut down their rigs. Dan, I got to leave it there. Really appreciate you being here. You come back anytime, because this is something that we have to watch, because, again, energy fuels the American economy. Sir, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. He knows his stuff, and I always like to make you the best education people around. Coming up, no lazy money with Nick Hopwood. Look at silver, almost $96 an ounce this morning. Unbelievable. Gold on the rise, too. What's it mean for you? What's going on in the economy? We'll check in with Nick after the break. No lazy money. That's what Nick says. Nick Hopwood's the founder and president of Peak Wealth. He's joining me now. He's also says Mr. Roth is back in 2026. All right, we're going to get you a QR code for a free Social Security analysis at the end of the segment here today. Nick, good morning. Good to have you here.
Hey, good morning, Steve. And I guess we're celebrating the Big Ten this week, right?
Yeah, apparently we are. Look, 3 years in a row, the Big Ten has taken the national football crown home. For all those analysts, Anyhow, just got that to say. Got that done. Let's see here. GDP growth estimate 5.4% for Q4, 5.3% according to some others, but over 5%. So the Fed is most likely on hold until summer. Look, this guy's got to go. Rates are falling. Mortgages are at, 6% or less, 5.5% for 15 years. Car loans, 4.6%. A chance for people to refinance and put that money that they're locking up there to work somewhere else. That's what you're suggesting, right?
Well, it's an opportunity. On the refinance, it can be expensive. So I would, say it's a case-by-case basis. If you want to consider it, send us the info. We can evaluate the case for you. But yeah, Steve, GDP coming in at 5 and 6% on the estimates. It's quite remarkable. I can't remember the last time before COVID where we had some strength like that. Although the haters will say it's the result of less imports coming from the tariffs. So make of it what you wish, but anytime we're over 5%, it's very solid.
Yeah, it's interesting. The tariffs, according to the naysayers, that was going to destroy everything. American consumers were going to pay so much more. Well, inflation's at 2.7% last time I checked. GDP is booming. Gas is cheaper than it was a year ago or 2 years ago. Certainly 3 years ago, and it was $5 a gallon. I mean, to me, I don't feel the pinch of the tariffs. I'm sure some industries do, but people are readjusting, realigning, bringing manufacturing to America. That's a good thing, is it not?
It is. I saw a study referenced over the weekend which suggested that like 90-some% of the tariff prices were passed on to us. But like you said, anecdotally, I don't feel that. I'm not sure, who put together that study, and I'm not sure if it's true. But my thought when I read it was it seems a little fishy.
Yeah. All right. So you set goals personally for yourself. You're a financial planner, but you set goals for yourself, your family, where you want to be, how much you want to save, what do you want to invest in. Everybody should do that. Everybody should have a plan and execute a plan. Otherwise, it's just willy-nilly. That's my take. What are your thoughts on a plan right now, January 2026, for the rest of the year?
Well, Steve, obviously my family, we're maxing out our Roth 401k, maxing out our HSA. We just funded our backdoor Roths. We have a systematic plan to fund our brokerage account every month. I just ran through the kids' 529 numbers and they look good. We plan on selling some duplexes and doing 1031 exchanges into commercial properties. But you have to back up a step and say, well, what are our values? What is our purpose? What is our mission? And what is our 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, and what are our 1-year goals? You don't just start putting money into a brokerage account. I mean, you're heading in the right direction, but you're not necessarily optimizing and you don't know where the end game is. That's where the blueprinting book comes in. If Anthony has that, the blueprinting guide, there you go. Live your life by design, not by default. And Steve, did you know only 10% of people write down their goals? And if you do write down your goals, you have a 42% increased chance of reaching those goals. So why not do it?
Well, it's a funny thing. Ivy always says we got to write down our goals January of every year. We write them down. And last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, we went through them. We got almost all of them done in 25. Almost all of them, because you write them down and you revisit them from time to time during the year. We'll have a mid-year revisit. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Who do you want to see? Do you want to make money? Do you want to read books? Do you want to take a vacation to a certain place? Whatever your goals might be, put it in writing. And it really works. Now, before we get too optimistic and too Pollyanna, there's always room for a correction in this market. I mean, I never thought I would see the day. Now, I've said this. We're going to hit 50,000 on the Dow, I believe. It keeps crowding up 49.5, not quite making it. It's going to break 50,000, but a correction, it's inevitable at some point, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this in December. Plan ahead, like when you're planning your 2026, plan ahead and think, when the correction comes, because most likely each year we will have a correction of a 10% drop, have a plan, understand what your action will be. Are you going to sell and panic? Are you going to ride it out? Or are you going to use it as an opportunity to buy more? So that's the mindset that I want you to have. And keep in mind that when you're watching CNBC and they put up that markets in turmoil graphic, keep this in mind. I saw this recently. Between 2010 and 2020, they put up this graphic 80 times.
Really?
Yep. So 80 out of 80 times, if you would have bought the day they put up that graphic, 1 year later, you would have been up on average 40%. So 80, it's 100% backwards tested, 100% probability of success with huge gains. So instead of being fearful, remember that stat. If there's anything you remember from today's segment here, remember that.
When CNBC puts up the markets in turmoil, read it as buy, baby, buy is what you should be reading, not markets in turmoil. However, you know, people do get nervous when the markets turn down, especially if they're retired or they have, you know, whatever issue they might be facing and so on and so forth. All right, so
Steve,
before we go.
Steve, I took 3 calls yesterday over Greenland.
Really?
Yeah, the calls are coming in.
When you say calls about Greenland, what do you mean?
People who look at this as a fearful opportunity in the market to panic. That's what I mean.
They're worried about Greenland. You see, me, I'm hoping I can find it on Zillow soon. I mean, a fishing camp in Greenland for Atlantic salmon, that would be spectacular to me. So they've got the wrong attitude.
Yeah, they do have the wrong attitude.
They do.
People think differently.
They do. All right, the QR code. You can get a free Social Security analysis from Nick Hopwood at Peak Wealth Management. Also get a free copy of the book, all right? A free copy of the book that he just mentioned. Go to that QR code. Nick's going to hook you up. Don't panic. When markets in turmoil, buy. That's what I've learned here. Do not have money sitting on the sidelines either. Nick Hopwood, always appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
There you have it, the QR code. Don't miss it. There it is. We'll be right back. Stan Kroenke is his name. He had his business enterprise centered in Denver, Colorado. Stan Kroenke owns the Los Angeles Rams. He owns a soccer team, a Premier League club, Arsenal, in England. Stan Kroenke owns a lot. Now, Stan Kroenke, who owns the Outdoor Channel. I used to put programs on the Outdoor Channel for 25 years, traveled the world making outdoor shows, if you didn't know. And he was the owner of that television station, a lot of others as well. He just bought 937,000 acres. Talk about a real estate deal in New Mexico. It was an off-market deal, once owned by the heirs of Teledyne founder Dr. Henry Singleton. This means that Kroenke goes from being number 4 on the list on private land owners to number 1, about 2.5 million acres he owns. And you're going to need a lot of quads to run that property. I always like the idea of having quads to run the property, you know. Anyhow, so he, 2.5 million acres. Can you imagine? 2.5 million acres. All right, here's a deal for you. If you're dealing with aches, pains, or everyday discomfort, it's time to check out Patriots Relief. Right now, they're offering 46% off their entire website all week. Use the promo code Gruber. That's real relief at a serious discount. Even better, free shipping, so there's nothing holding you back. Don't guess, don't wait, get relief that works. Yeah, that's right. PatriotsRelief.com, promo code Gruber, save 46% all week long. You want some Patriots Relief there, pal? Apparently he wanted to be on TV today. How you doing? Good to see you. PatriotsRelief.com, promo code Gruber. Are you serious right now? Are you serious right now? 46% off all week, PatriotsRelief.com. I guess I got a co-host for the remainder of the program. Nice to see you. Seems pretty happy about things. Yeah, it's the real thing. Yeah. Where do you get this kind of interaction with a co-host anywhere on TV? The answer is nowhere. Little kitty, good morning. Nice to see you. We'll take a break. It's the Steve Gruber Show and Little Kitty. Right? Nice to see you. Back after this.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
And welcome to it, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom as we enter the next hour here, trying to tell you the truth, make you the best informed audience anywhere in media. How about an idea, number one, how about an idea to eliminate capital gains on the sale of your private home, of your personal home? There's a movement underway to make that happen. That would be interesting. Number two, Greenland. What's actually coming next? The negotiations are serious, but how does that look? NATO all worried. Well, so it is. We'll see where it goes. And number three, the upheaval in Minneapolis by violent fringe agitators. Many, if not most of them, are not even from there. Reached a new low over the weekend. Led by Don Lemon, the disgraced former CNN left-wing nut job anchor. The guy that hates white people but's married to a white dude. So they took over a church. They took over a church because somebody believed that somebody there might work for ICE. Now, Don Lemon claims he's a journalist. He's not. He's just an agitator with a camera, but claims he's a journalist. Listen.
MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true. So let me just make it clear, because this assistant attorney general, I don't know, gosh, what's her name? It's something Hammett, Gillen or whatever. So I had no affiliation to that organization. I didn't even know they were going to this church until we followed them there. We were there chronicling protests. Once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism, which was report on it and talk to the people who were involved, which included the pastor, members of the church, and members of the organization. That's it. It's called journalism. First Amendment, all that stuff. For all of you people who believe in the First Amendment, absolutist, there you go. So why don't you talk to the actual person who is in charge of the organization and whose idea it was to have the protests at the church before you start blaming me for stuff for which you have no idea about. Thank you.
It's actually called a violation of the FACE Act, which means you cannot interfere with or obstruct or anything else a religious undertaking. Going to church on Sunday, you don't just get to go take over a church and start screaming at people. You can't do that. It's illegal under the FACE Act. But if Don Lemon thinks the Christians he verbally attacked and insulted and cornered, he cornered the pastor there, got in his face. If he thinks the Christians are just going to be doormats, I'm telling you, he is sadly mistaken. Here's a rebuttal.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, a group of activists led by Don Lemon stormed a Baptist church by the name of Cities Church during their worship time. They were screaming and chanting, disrupting the singing and the preaching because they suspected an ICE officer may attend the church. This is a violation of what is known as the FACE Act, and not only do we condemn this act, but tonight I want to demand that the Department of Justice investigate what took place in Minneapolis, apprehend those who broke the law, and arrest them accordingly. We must protect religious liberty in this country. As people meet to worship God, they have been given legally the right to enter, to worship, and to leave their place of worship. The Lord Jesus said, "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world."
How do you think that's going to play in churches across Minneapolis? How do you think that's going to play in churches across Minnesota or the United States? These are campaign ads that make themselves. People expect that they can go to church on Sunday and not be harassed, insulted, intimidated. The FACE Act must be used here. Pam Bondi needs to get something done here. Pam Bondi has fallen out of favor with the America First crowd, that's for sure, because of her lack of doing anything. I mean, I've got this list here of Republicans arrested and charged under the Biden administration: Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, Christina Bobb, and there's a big long list here you can see. Democrats arrested and prosecuted during the Trump administration: nobody. Nobody. People want that to change. I'm one of those people that wants that to change. We're going to see what happens. Meanwhile, one Democrat after another pushing for a battle. They want a war. They want Kent State. They want something so egregious to happen, a mistake to be public by one of these officers, being agitated. See, they create this chaos intentionally, and then when something bad happens, they say, see, we told you so. Self-fulfilling prophecy. One Democrat after another pushing for a battle between federal officers and the states. Listen to this nonsense.
What do you make of what's happening with ICE in Minneapolis?
The president said he was going to use our American cities for practice for troops. He's now put a deployment order out in Alaska to potentially put them on the streets. I think he is trying to incite the protesters. Somebody asked me yesterday, haven't the protests been peaceful? I said the protesters have been peaceful, but ICE hasn't been.
That's such garbage. They've been incited by Governor Walz, by the mayor, Little Fry, Small Fry, Jacob Fry, whatever his name is. But here's a woman dropping a common sense truth bomb on the leftists in the streets targeting ICE, pointing out President Obama awarded Tom Homan for his work deporting people. Here it is.
It's wild how short people's memories are. Under Obama administration, 56 people died under ICE custody. 56. That's not a conspiracy. That's public record. According to the ACLU, under Obama, under ICE, failures of medical care, ICE malpractice. The list is long as to why and how these deaths occurred. And somehow, no mass riots. Obama deported over 3 million people. Let's not forget that, people. I say that in so many of my videos. Millions. And a lot of them were fast removals. No real hearing, no judge, no full due process. And here's the part liberals don't like to bring up. Tom Homan? Yeah, that Tom Homan? He was running enforcement under Obama. And during that time, he was given an award back in 2015 for his work with ICE. Even Democratic states allowed ICE to do their job under Obama. Here's my thing. If you're going to be mad, be consistently mad. Liberals were not mad when ICE was doing their job. All 8 years with Obama, they weren't mad in the streets. Now, I'm not saying that deaths don't matter. They always do. I'm saying the outrage only appears when it's politically convenient.
That's
AKA
right.
selective outrage.
That's right. It's only anger when Donald Trump does it. Barack Obama, more than 5 million people deported. Awarded Tom Homan for his work deporting people. Where was the outrage when 6,000 people were arrested in Minnesota during the Biden years? Where was the outrage? It's all manufactured is what it is. I'll take a break and be back. Good morning. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Let's jump right back into it now, shall we? Mental health screenings. A lot of calls for more policies to deal with mental health in America. I mean, you see the numbers, they're not good, right? Numbers of mental health, especially because of the aftermath of COVID, which, by the way, I told you on this program during the length of the COVID lockdowns, the nonsense, the damage would be generational. The cure was worse than the disease. Kids would drop out of school. Mental health issues would arise. We talked about it almost every day on this program. But my next guest says those mental health screenings, maybe they're more damaging. Carolyn Gorman is the Paulson Policy Analyst at the Manhattan Institute, where her research examines how policy changes in the U.S. impact real people with mental illness. Carolyn, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Steve.
So give me an explanation here of you say that these universal mental health screenings, first of all, what are universal mental health screenings? Are they mandatory in schools? And then we'll move to the issue of whether they do any good or not.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So mental health screenings are typically brief questionnaires that ask students things like, do you feel worry? And have you been uninterested in what you're doing every day? Or maybe most concerningly, things like, have you thought about how you might carry out suicide plans? Universal screenings are screenings that go to a whole group, so a whole class or a whole grade or a whole school. And they're becoming much more common in schools. But we don't need to be asking every single kid whether or not they, have thought about their suicide plans when they don't give us any reason to think they're in distress.
So actually, by doing that, you're planting a seed. Hey, you ever thought about suicide? No. Should I think about suicide? I mean, honestly, to me, that's what I'm hearing. You're planting a seed in students that otherwise wouldn't even consider such a thing.
Unfortunately, that's exactly right. One of the first things to know about mental health screening is that there's no foolproof way to identify a mental health condition. There's no blood test or brain scan or biomarker that we can use to check if someone has a mental health condition or if it's really just a bad spell of worry or stress. And so the problem with screenings then is that by design, they interpret emotions and behaviors through a clinical medical lens. So any indication of anxiousness or apathy or inattention might intentionally be considered a flag for a potential mental health condition. So all you have to do then is be a teen with a little angst or have some worry about an upcoming test, and a screening might flag you as at risk of a mental health condition, and that pushes a lot of kids towards overdiagnosis and overtreatment.
And over medication, I would assume, because that leads to the next spot, which is, here, son, take this pill, right?
That's exactly right. Mental health screenings wrongly identify more kids as having a mental health condition when they don't. And they don't identify kids with serious issues who would have otherwise gone missed. And schools, unfortunately, sort of exacerbate this issue. To your point about over medicalization and over medication, ADHD is one of the clearest examples of where we see this. A lot of teacher-driven action drives students towards an assessment just because a student might be immature. We see diagnosis rates of ADHD as higher among the youngest students in any given class grade.
Let me ask you something here, Carolyn. Are boys and girls the same?
Boys and girls are different.
Yeah, and my point being is, I used to do this, spin around in my chair, jump up and down, fidget. But in my day, the teachers came and said, settle down, sit straight, da-da-da-da. They didn't say, hey, take your pill. That's the difference today, and not a good one, I don't think.
I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of really well-intended parents, teachers, school administrators, but the problem is when we worry so much about potentially traumatizing kids, we don't teach them to understand what a little problem is and what a big problem is, and then we turn little problems into big problems.
Sure.
So we need to be more clear about, what's normal anxiety. Like, yes, of course you're going to be stressed if you have a test coming up. Unfortunately, you still have to go to school. That does not mean someone has a mental health condition.
Yeah, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I remember learning as a child. I'm not wrong about that. All right, so what do we need to do here? Go back to the old models where if you saw somebody that had some issues, I mean, I had really great school counselors when I grew up. They were great. And if they thought I was upset or had something going on, whatever, they'd yank me in for 5 minutes, sit you down, talk to you for a minute, and send you on your way. And they were really good. We don't need to do one size fits all, right?
That's right. The first thing that we need to do is stop these widespread screenings because all they're doing is inducing over medicalization. Teachers, parents, they know when their own kids are upset and when something is off about those kids. Everyone experiences a range of emotions on any given day. I mean, how often during the day do you feel the emotion of happy as opposed to hungry or, a little tired or a little anxious? We need to understand that those emotions are normal and we're going to feel them on a day-to-day basis. But when something's off, other people are going to spot that.
Yeah, and they need to. I agree with you. You've convinced me. Universal mental health. Again, standardized testing, I think, is terrible for kids. Standardized screening, I think, is obviously not good for kids. You've made a great point, Carolyn. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for explaining the situation to us.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. Thanks for your concern with this issue.
Yeah, it's very important. Look, what I said there, if you continue to plant the seed, oh, Johnny, are you depressed? Do you think about suicide? No. What's suicide? I mean, how young are they asking these kids? I should have asked her that. I missed that one. Next time she comes back, though, Carolyn Gorman, really good. Coming up still, Minnesota schools helping ICE evasion. Can you imagine them coming into your elementary school and saying, don't help the police are bad? Really? How far off the track are you if you're doing that? Police are bad. Avoid the police. Call 911 if you see an ICE officer. That's something else they're doing. Unbelievably bad ideas in Minnesota and elsewhere. We'll talk about it coming up on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, we're rebuilding and refilling the strategic petroleum reserves. As you know, Joe Biden drained those to historic lows, not because we had an emergency, not because there was some crisis in America, but there was a crisis in polling numbers. So they unleashed the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to drive down the price of gasoline before the last election. It failed miserably. Now Donald Trump's spending his time refilling the SPR. It takes time. For the economy of the United States, the SPR probably not as important as it was 25 or 30 years ago because we have so much energy in America. But important nonetheless in case of a national crisis, in case of a major natural disaster, potential conflict. It's there for a reason. It wasn't there for Joe Biden to get better polling numbers leading up to the election of 2024. The United States became the world's largest producer of natural gas in 2011, and what we just found in Alaska and elsewhere pushes us farther and farther out into the lead. We became the top crude oil producer during Donald Trump's first administration in 2018. Moving ahead of Saudi Arabia and Russia. We have energy in spades here. The shale revolution really pushed things forward. We get better oil in amounts that we never even thought conceivable because of the innovation of the United States. Innovation here in this country pushed us forward. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve was created in the aftermath of the Arab oil embargo of the 1970s. I remember sitting in cars waiting for gas. But we do have to protect ourselves. But we have more energy now in Texas, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan. We have energy in spades, folks. It's important that we restock the SPR, but it's not as important as it once was. And it's not a political tool either. Not a political tool, nor should it be used as such. And that's what they did with it during the Biden years. A lot of things they did wrong. That's just another example of what should not have happened during his tenure in the White House. All right, coming up later today, Ryan Duffy will be here. Speaking of energy from Enbridge, we'll be discussing that tunnel that they're building under the Straits of Mackinac. They're inching closer, being hindered by bad policies and bad politicians, but getting closer. Just one of the topics still ahead today on the Steve Gruber Show. Because I can't educate you if I don't keep it moving fast. I mean, there's so much to cover. I have a stack of information here every day. Stories and things that I think that are important that we rarely get to because there's so much to talk about these days. 2026, the most furious news cycle yet. I can't wait till 2027 and 28. James Fitzpatrick is the director of the Center to Advance Security in America, CASA. And today he's here to talk about Minnesota schools helping ICE evasion, helping people to hide from the police. That's right, Johnny, the police are bad. In fact, I heard people there in Minnesota saying, if you see an ICE agent, call 911. Turn them in immediately. I'm sorry, what planet are we living on? James, welcome to the program.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It is absolutely outrageous. Instead of teaching kids, hey, if you're in trouble, find a police officer. No, if you see something happening, call 911 on the police officer. The world is upside down, isn't it?
It really is. Look, last week, Minneapolis Public Schools actually reached out to illegal alien parents and students and said, look, students,
Hold on. I got to ask you a question. How do they know who are the illegal alien students? You mean they already know who's here illegally, so they reach out to the parents? That's a pretty big point.
That's a great point, Steve. That's what we're trying to figure out. They actually, this is a taxpayer-funded entity that is altering their operations to accommodate the parents, to accommodate students whose parents fear federal immigration enforcement activities. So they are saying to their students, if your parents do not want to come to school because they fear being detained by ICE, you can take classes remotely. I've never seen anything like that.
Neither have I. You know, I remember elementary school, the police officer would come in now and then. You'd have a police officer at your second, third, fourth grade, whatever you are. And the police officer shows up and you get to play show and tell and talk about different things. And, ooh, your badge is cool and you carry a gun or whatever it might be. Now this is an evil person who works for the Gestapo and they're going to beat people and they're violent and they are creating a foundational idea, which will be very hard to shake as these children get older, that police are bad and dangerous and you should avoid them and you should turn them in and you should fight them and you should be violent toward them and you should, I have seen some of these children in videos, you've seen this too, James, where the parents are encouraging their little kids to give police officers, federal officers, the finger. Really?
That's right. It's disgusting. It's not the way we were raised. I was raised to, revere law enforcement, as we all should be. But this situation is just disgusting. Imagine any other scenario of a taxpayer-funded entity altering its operations internally to accommodate to parents who may be wanted criminals. If you think about it in any other type of situation or any other crime, it's almost laughable. But here you have parents who are potentially wanted. They are potential illegal immigrants. And I think that this calls for an investigation. We don't know what we don't know. We need to see communications between the leadership of the school and potential parents. This is not to say that we're looking at any sort of private student information, but I think the office should be looking into communications between parents and the leadership to see if they know their locations, if they're potentially assisting them in other ways to evade law enforcement. This is a crime. This is obstruction of federal immigration enforcement.
Are we going to see anything happen here, James? It's laughable in a strange way that during COVID, Governor Tim Walz unleashed the National Guard, the Minnesota National Guard, into the streets of Minneapolis, shot people on their own porches with paint guns if they were outside of their houses in violation of not stepping outside their door without permission. And now the National Guard is the enemy. Now Donald Trump is the enemy. Police are the enemy. And apparently those that are here that are from TDA, Tren de Aragua, or are sex offenders or are murderers. We've got the list of the crimes committed by some of these people they're trying to find while agitators are in the streets, blocking agents, attacking agents, and getting involved in conflict directly. There have got to be crimes here that are prosecuted. Pam Bondi cannot sit on her hands any longer. Whether it's the FACE Act when they invaded a church over the weekend with Don Lemon leading the charge and claiming he's committing an act of journalism. This is garbage. Prosecute these people. Stop pussyfooting around.
I agree, Steve, and I am very confident. I was looking on X yesterday and following the news very closely with all this stuff, and I am very confident that Attorney General Bondi, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, and the leadership of the DOJ is taking this extremely seriously. I know that there are prosecutors on the ground from Washington in Minnesota right now looking at all of this stuff. and they are not wasting any time. And I'm confident that we will be seeing action very soon.
And then what about Tim Walz? I mean, we're talking the last number I saw, and again, some of these numbers are conjecture, $19 billion in fraud in the state of Minnesota across all programs involving daycares and autism centers and home health care facilities and food meal prep services, all of it. $19 billion defrauded from the taxpayers of Minnesota. And listen, for the kids that didn't get services who do have autism, they got shorted. For kids who didn't get a meal because it was defrauded out the side door while somebody stuffed money in their pocket, these are real consequences of these thieves. And they are thieves, and anybody who protected them, Tim Walz or Keith Ellison or any of them,
that's exactly
have to
right.
also be charged. Look, the state of Illinois has a long history of throwing governors in prison. Minnesota should follow suit, in my estimation. Your thoughts?
Look, I know the DOJ is looking into Governor Walz and other state leadership officials for their role in potentially being involved or looking the other way with all of this fraud. Another thing that I think we should look at is similar to Mark Kelly, is in that Governor Walz is a military retiree. Committing a crime or being involved in a crime or being investigated in a crime is worthy of a Department of Defense investigation, similar to the one Secretary Hegseth did on Mark Kelly. So I think there's a variety of options that the administration has to go after these guys, but they need to be held accountable for this stuff, or else it'll continue to happen.
Yeah, or it's going to continue to happen over and over again. All right, tell the folks about the Center to Advance Security in America, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Well, we are an organization that engages in educating the public on all sorts of issues, whether they be related to immigration, your safety, foreign policy. We engage in litigation. We engage in public records requests, research, things like that, to educate the public on all sorts of issues. We write letters to government officials, as we did here, and advocate for the safety of the American people. This should be our top priority as a government, and that's what we want to see more of.
All right, James. Greatly appreciate you being here. We cannot teach these kids that police are the bad guys. They're trying to protect these people from violent criminals. It's mind-boggling to me, James, but I appreciate you sharing your time here this morning. Thank you.
Sure, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. All right, still to come today, as we continue to make you the best educated audience anywhere in America or around the world, really. Still to come, we're going to have Ronald McDaniel will join me next hour. Still to come, Dr. John Lucy will be here, food science professor, University of Wisconsin-Madison. Raw milk in Michigan. It's legal again. What do you need to know about it? We'll talk about it. Your good health after this. here by Health and Human Services. Basically, turning it upside down. More protein, more real fats, less grains, and a war on sugar. All steps in the right direction in my estimation. In fact, I have not paid attention to the food pyramid for years because I think it is absolutely silly. It was anyway. And so one of the things that happened last week, Donald Trump signed an executive order bringing whole milk back to schools and school lunches. It was taken out during the Obama years and replaced with low-fat milk. And they said, no, we're going to bring back whole milk because it's better protein, better fat, better nutritional value. My next guest is Dr. John Lucy, food science professor, University of Wisconsin-Madison. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me this morning, Steve.
During the conversation in the Oval Office, Tim Walberg, who represents Michigan 5, said not only did my kids get raised on whole milk, they were raised on raw milk. He made that comment in the Oval Office, and raw milk is something that has become, my understanding, legal in Michigan again. But what does raw milk mean compared to homogenized milk? Tell us what the difference is. Why is it important?
Well, there's a couple of different terms here. So raw would literally have nothing done to it. It would be milk by the farmer, put into some container, and passed to somebody who would come and buy that milk directly from the farm. It would not be homogenized as a process of breaking up the fat globules and just making them smaller so you don't get a cream layer. Historically, if you go back many decades, the milk in the US, the fluid milk in the US was not homogenized, and therefore when you would pick up your milk, it would already have a layer of cream on the top. So it's really a very simple kind of process of just breaking up the fat. The process we're talking, legal process we're talking about here is to also remove the pasteurization step, which is a heat step to kill any pathogens that could be present in the raw milk produced at the farm.
Yeah. So what are the concerns? Raw milk was illegal. You couldn't, Amish farmers, and not just in Michigan, but around the country, got jammed up because they were selling raw milk to their neighbors, to their friends, to whomever. And they were prosecuted by different states. Why the concern about raw milk? Is there a health concern?
There's a health concern, and there's a possibility that the raw milk can contain pathogens. At the farm, because I grew up in a farm, at the farm, basically, when you look all around you on the farm, there are going to be pathogens in the soil, in the water, the manure or poop from the animals will produce pathogens as well. So you really are kind of surrounded by lots of potential pathogen contamination of the milk. And most surveys of farms and bulk tanks where the milk is collected have found about at least 5% of them are contaminated with things like E. coli, listeria. And if you lump them all together, if I went in and did a survey of all farms for any pathogen, sometimes some surveys found as many as 1 in 3 bulk tanks had some pathogen present. And so it's mostly the concern about the fact that there's a good chance that the milk could be contaminated with a pathogen somewhere in the process of milking and getting into a bulk tank.
What kind of pathogen?
You got E. coli, and some of the E. coli that are present can actually cause kidney infections, severe kidney infections that can end up with people going to the hospital, especially sensitive for kids. You got Listeria monocytogenes. Listeria is a kind of a nasty one. If pregnant women got infected with this, it can cause a stillbirth of the baby. You've got Campylobacter. Campylobacter is a nasty kind of, you get sick and vomiting, etc. But it also increases your risk for Guillain-Barré syndrome. So you've got some pathogens there that I would say are more than just, hey, I'll have an upset tummy.
So would you drink raw milk?
No, I grew up on a farm. So when I was very young at the farm, back in Ireland, actually, we drank raw milk from the bulk tank because we were milking cows. But
Sure.
my mother, after talking to her doctor, switched sometime when I was growing up and boiled all her milk under recommendation for the doctor. So for me, no, I would not. Just because there's that risk, why would I want to take that risk?
Should people have the right to choose for themselves? That's what this really comes down to. If people want to drink raw milk out of the bulk tank there, should they have the right to choose that, or should the government dictate to them what they're allowed to consume and what they're not?
I think milk is one of those kind of products I get worried about. if you look at the stats for outbreaks, sometimes in some outbreaks, 25 to 50% of the people who ended up getting sick were children. And so I worry about the fact that, we always recommend our kids to be drinking more milk for calcium, for bone, and just the things you were just talking about. So I look at this as the people who are very sensitive to this unknowingly can get sick and sometimes seriously sick. So that's my major concern. It's not some very niche product. It's a kind of a core product. And the science says that there's no nutritional benefit from taking it raw instead of pasteurized. So that to me was why are we doing that? Why are we adding the risk, especially for sensitive people like pregnant women, immunocompromised people, children? Those often are ones that are recommended to drink it. So it puts us in a dilemma. We're recommending more consumption of milk, but the sensitive population, the ones who can get really sick.
All right. I'm going to leave it right there, Doctor. You've stated your case well. I appreciate it. I don't know where you'd buy raw milk. Me personally, I don't know where I would get it. But pasteurized, you get all the nutrition, all the benefit, eliminate the risk. That's the takeaway, correct?
That is correct.
Sir, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you, Steve.
All right. Greatly appreciate it. There you have it. What do you think about that? Send me an email. Raw milk, yes or no? Should you have the choice, yes or no? SteveGruber.com, the place to send me an email, and you can weigh in on this. It's a big question. What do you think about the changes to the food pyramid? I'm a big supporter. Where do you come down on it? Feel the same? Have some pushback you'd like to share? SteveGruber.com. Send me an email. Always interested in what you have to say. When we come back, Brock Palmbush will have sports, including that big win by Indiana. Straight ahead. All right, time for sports with Brock.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The Indiana Hoosiers won the national championship in college football last night with a thrilling 27-21 victory over Miami of Florida at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. It's the Hoosiers' first ever national championship in football and the first college team since Yale in 1894 to finish a season 16-0. Heisman Trophy winner Fernando Mendoza rushed for the eventual winning touchdown in the fourth quarter. In the NBA yesterday, there were 9 games. Winners included Philadelphia, Detroit, Phoenix, and the LA Clippers. In the NHL, there were 10 games. Winners included Philadelphia, New Jersey, Chicago, and Anaheim. In the NFL, the Buffalo Bills fired head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons at the helm, and the Miami Dolphins hired Green Bay defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley as their new head coach. And in women's college basketball, number 1 Connecticut, number 5 Vanderbilt, and number 12 Ohio State all won. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Brock. All right, Brock. So the Big Ten, 3 in a row. And,
Yes.
And you mentioned, as we talked about this earlier, it's because the Big Ten can now pay players like the SEC has done for years, according to a friend of yours, right?
Except that it's legal now with name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
And Indiana has Mark Cuban and other prominent donors helping out Kurt Signetti. And, you know, Coach Signetti's molded them together. And, I mean, they're a terrific team. They will, I don't know, if they're not the best college team that I've ever seen, but they're going to be one of the most beloved and one of the most memorable, without a doubt. And there will be a movie about this. Somebody pointed out to me last night, oh, there's going to be a Hoosiers 2 movie. And I'm like, yep, count on it. Eventually down the road, somebody will make a movie about this.
What about the folks in Columbus and Ann Arbor who thought, well, you know, we have a certain advantage over all the teams of the Big Ten generally.
What about
Not
Oregon?
anymore.
Nope. Oregon's in there too. Nike money, Phil Knight. Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't do Oregon any good. They still get crushed.
Well, they did. Yeah, Indiana
Every
ripped them
time.
up. But Oregon's legit though.
All right, fair enough. All right, coming up in the next hour, Rhonda McDaniel is going to join me. You know her, of course. Chief Executive Officer of the Michigan Forward Network. Michigan's rising energy cost on the conversation list. Ryan Duffy will be here to discuss energy as well and the Enbridge pipeline. All about energy here and everywhere. We'll have another hour coming up on the Steve Gruber Show.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's get to it right now here as we kick off another hour from the foxhole of freedom, fighting for you every single day. Who do you want in your foxhole? 2026. If things get tough, who are you going to be with? Standing shoulder to shoulder. We'll talk about that every day here. Three big things to know this hour. Number one, the state of Michigan offering 250th anniversary license plates. They, of course, come off the same prison production line. Number two, data centers. They're everywhere. Why do we need all these data centers? That's the question not being asked. There's land grabs happening, of course. We know that, but why do we need them? And number three, we continue to spin, well, not all of us, but a number of people continue to spin deeper and deeper into the left side of the political equation, even though it's not well regarded. Men and women's sports, losing conversation, right? Open borders, losing conversation. Bad energy policy using windmills and solar panels when it's 4 degrees out and everything's covered in snow. How do you think those solar panels are doing today? It's a losing conversation. It is. But for some on the left, it's what they've got, and they just keep doubling down on it again and again and again and again, coming back to bad policy, saying we need more of this. We need more socialism and more open borders and attack ICE officers and all of this nonsense. Bad policies, bad outcomes. Hakeem Jeffries, by the way, the House Minority Leader, has made it clear what the plan is for the midterm elections. What their platform is. They have no platform, by the way. They've failed on energy. They failed on health care. They failed on tax policy. They failed on everything. Men and women's sports, big failure again, of course. But here is their plan. Attack Donald Trump. Attack the Supreme Court. Attack anything Trump does, even when it was their own policies a couple of years ago, right? Doesn't matter. Listen to what he says.
So there's two things to keep in mind here. First of all, there's accountability for the corruption and the chaos that Donald Trump has unleashed on the American people from the very beginning of his presidency on January 20th that should be tied directly to the Supreme Court and the 6 right-wing justices who basically gave Donald Trump, without justification, blanket immunity. And he's been out of control ever since. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, of course, is the fact that there are so many different corrupt sycophants within the Trump administration, including but not limited to within the Department of Justice. Now, these people don't have immunity. And the reality is the statute of limitations is 5 years, and there will be accountability with the next administration, if not before, when Democrats take back control of the House of Representatives.
Mm-hmm. Really? So they're just going to prosecute everybody. They're going to impeach Donald Trump for the 4th, 5th, and 6th time. That's the plan. There is no plan for energy, for border security, for the economy, for the open borders. There's no plan there except attack Donald Trump and prosecute anybody in his orbit. That's it. That's their entire plan. And when you look at the problems they've created, how about all the fraud in Minnesota? The latest number I've seen, $19 billion. Now, we'll see how it all shakes out. But billions of dollars of fraud, not waste, fraud, and abuse, just fraud in the daycares, home health care services, autism centers, meal production facilities for the needy. Fraud, fraud, fraud. In fact, the numbers are absolutely incredible. Dr. Oz says the level of fraud by blue states paying for illegal alien health care is jaw-dropping. Billions and billions of dollars there. Listen to this.
Very specifically in California, we've already identified about $1.3 billion of federal dollars spent to take care of illegal immigrants. The state is giving that money back. We will claw the rest of it, and we're continuing to audit quarterly the state Medicaid system to identify when patients who are legally here are taken care of without emergency situations. Emergencies are different, but when you come for elective hernia operations or dental cleaning, that's not going to be paid for by the federal taxpayer. It's not right. You don't want folks in one state paying for people in another state without them knowing about it and voting for it.
Yeah, absolutely true. People in one state get to pay for the fraud in another state. They don't even know about it. Meanwhile, the president's approval ratings pretty consistently in the mid-40s, 45% according to Rasmussen, 46% for Morning Consult. So he's underwater 5, 6, 8 points. But that's consistent. And when it comes to the popularity of the Democrats, they're in far worse condition, far worse. When it comes to Congress, the disapproval numbers for Congress are absolutely jaw-dropping. The direction of the country, according to Rasmussen, this is not a good number. On the wrong track, 57%. On the right track, 37%. So the whole plan for the midterms, create as much chaos as possible in places like Minneapolis. Turn local law enforcement against federal law enforcement and see if you can create Kent State. By the way, speaking of success for this president, here is something you're not going to hear anywhere else. You're not. What I'm about to share with you, you're not going to hear anywhere else. Overdose deaths. Overdose deaths and hospital visits to the ER have plummeted since Donald Trump took office. Listen, here's an ER doctor just saying, look, politics doesn't matter. Listen to this.
I will tell you something that I haven't said publicly yet, and it deserves to be said. We were seeing 10 to 12 overdoses a day, and we are seeing maybe 1 or 2. Sometimes we go 3 days without seeing an overdose of fentanyl. So closing our borders and doing the things that he is doing, I am 100% behind. It really has made America better in the healthcare system, in the war against drugs.
Yeah, so you have seen a massive decline, at least in his experience. I'd like to know how that extrapolates across the country. If fentanyl deaths and fentanyl overdoses have plummeted, it's another big win for this administration, another huge win. And one you can't overlook. The war on drugs actually being successful after all these decades, that's a win. That is a win. When you look at places like Traverse City that lost 8 people in a single month to fentanyl. Rapid River lost 3 people out of a community of just over 300 in a year. That's in the UP, by the way. A lot of things to discuss here. Ronna McDaniel up next. Michigan Rising's energy costs. What can we do about it? Better public policy would be one way to do it. Ronna is up next. 2026, what's it all going to be about? I think at the end of the day, it's all about the economy. How much money is in people's pockets? I think that is the biggest driver. Unless, of course, we have some national conflict or something that arises. But everything else is secondary to the economy. And right now, the tax returns from the One Big Beautiful Bill, some projected to be $20,000. I think that puts a smile on people's faces. Energy prices, as far as gasoline go, are down. But when you look at electricity in Michigan and elsewhere, boy, this fool's errand toward windmills and solar panels has been an abject failure, whether you look here or in the Northeast, doesn't matter. Join me now, an old friend, Ronna McDaniel, Chief Executive Officer of the Michigan Forward Network. Ronna, welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you, as always. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. So I'm sitting here. It's about 3 degrees. Snow covering everything. Big snowstorm yesterday. What are those solar panels doing for me today? Anything?
Not much. Not much. I mean, this is what Whitmer put in place with the Green New Deal of Michigan since 2023 when she passed that. We have increased electricity rates in Michigan 9 times. 9 times since then. The average family, once this is fully implemented, will pay $2,700 more a year, and we're feeling it right now. This is the Democrats. This is the failure of their green energy policies.
Can we turn it back? That's the real question. Look, 100% renewable by 2040 or something just absurdly. You can't do it. The math does not work. The number of windmills and solar panels you would need would be ridiculous, frankly. And they actually put forth a plan in 2025. You probably saw this. Let's bulldoze parts of the Manistee National Forest and put in solar panels, because that's how you save the environment, apparently.
Exactly. And let's get rid of sustained energy. Let's get rid of coal. Let's get rid of the pipeline. Let's make sure that Michigan freezes. Let's buy energy from Canada. It's ridiculous. And home heating prices are up. The key is, Steve, though, is we need to make sure Michiganders know that this is because of Whitmer and the Democrats, because they're going to try and change it. I've already seen them try and put billboards up saying it's Republicans that are bringing up energy prices. It is absolutely Whitmer's policies. And that's why we've been sending out energy bills to people, to voters, reminding them that this is why Michigan is, lowest in unemployment, right? Highest in unemployment. We're one of the worst states in the country. Wages didn't grow, and on top of that, our prices are going up because of Whitmer.
Yeah, I spoke to President Trump about this on a few different occasions. He has always considered Michigan to be ground zero. He thought that before 16, 20, and 24. He thought that before the 22 midterms. I think he thinks the same today, that Michigan is the bellwether for the country now. No other state has more influence on what's really going to happen across the country. I believe the same thing. What are your thoughts of Michigan being the most pivotal state?
I think Michigan in 2026 is going to be the epicenter of the election. We have an open Senate seat. We have an open governor seat. The state Senate's up. We've got to keep the state house. And then the majority to the House of Representatives in Congress is probably going to run through Michigan. So we're going to have a lot going on in our state. I will say the thing that does worry me heading into 2026, and I think you can help with this, is Democrats are engaged. They are definitely enthusiastic. They are turning out in many of these special elections. They are outpacing Republicans on election day, which is unheard of. And we're at about 53% engagement right now. So we have got to up our engagement if we want to keep our state and make sure we don't keep going backwards like we've been doing with under Whitmer.
Yeah, and I preach this pretty much daily here. Never Trumpers were an annoyance, but only Trumpers are a problem for the Republican Party, because if you only vote if Donald Trump's on the ballot, if that's the only time you turn out, you're not going to help him finish his presidency. In 2022, 1 million people that voted for Donald Trump 2 years earlier didn't vote in the midterms. We can't have that this time, Ronna.
We can't. And you're exactly right. The Republican Party used to be the reliable midterm voter, and it's actually flipped. And those Trump voters that don't necessarily identify as Republican, a lot of them sit home, and we have to make sure that they get out this election, especially in Michigan, because we will be deciding the course of our country. But for me, as I live here and you live here, it's the course of our state.
Yeah.
And we are on the decline. I mean, what is it? 60% of third graders right now in our state can't read. We are 48th in terms of unemployment. We are at the near bottom. Out of 42 states that had wage increases, we're not one of them. Surprise. I mean, the list is so abhorrent. And where's Whitmer right now? She's overseas. She's not in Michigan.
Of course.
It's a big surprise.
Michigan, the only state in America in 2025, I believe, that raised income taxes. While states like Tennessee and Florida and Texas eat our lunch because they've got better tax policy, we raise taxes. We get rid of work first. First state to ever do that. Absolutely absurd. So that's why you need to get back to the state Senate, get a Republican into the governor's chair, and hold on to the state house, because we need to return work first to Michigan. We need to lower income tax, not raise them. We need to lower the the regulations on small business and so forth. We have to do all of those things, don't we?
Exactly. And Matt Hall's done a great job, but he's just one chamber. I think we need to lower our property taxes, and I think we need to focus
Agreed.
on education. But when I go to these energy bills, Steve, Whitmer appoints the Energy Board of Michigan. These energy bills are raised by her appointees. They've gone since 2023 9 times and increased our rates. But those are her handpicked flunkies that are going there and raising our bills every day. So switching governors is going to be key to making sure we lower our energy prices as well.
Absolutely true. And in a three-way race, I think it helps the Republicans significantly. I mean, you can't drive down a highway in Michigan without seeing a Mike Duggan billboard along the highway, that's for sure. Last word to you.
I would just say thank you for having me. Everybody listening, get engaged. Make sure you're talking to your neighbors. This is going to be such an important election. I will mention we have a Senate special in Michigan 35, and this will tip the balance of the Senate. We could tie it. So get involved in that. The primary is February 3rd and the general's in May. But pay attention. This is going to be a critical race for our state.
There you have it. Ronna McDaniel. Always good to see you, Ronna. Thank you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. It's the Michigan Forward Network. You could look those folks up online. I did. They've got a lot to discuss, a lot to offer, but you have to vote. You can't sit it out. Well, Donald Trump's not there. You cannot sit this one out, because they will win if you do. I'll be right back. I would like to have asked Ron about these data centers. Here's the question that I don't hear asked, and I'm going to ask. Why do we need all of these data centers, these giant data centers, all over the country? What are they keeping track of? I have a sneaking suspicion they're keeping track of you and me. I mean, these are giant facilities, and they have been given the green light to grab land in Michigan, whether or not locals want the data center there or not. Now, they create some jobs, but they take a tremendous amount of energy that, by the way, like Ronna was pointing out, is not going to be supplied by windmills and solar panels. These places are going to be powered by natural gas, maybe nuclear. We need real energy in this state. Otherwise, your electric rates are going to continue to go up. Some of these data centers have even gone so far as to create their own power plant so that they're self-sufficient, if you will. They run natural gas to them. Natural gas that could come through the tunnel that's being built by Enbridge, or is at least getting closer. So this energy need for Michigan, more acute than it is even in some other states. But you look to the Northeast, Donald Trump canceled 5 massive offshore windmill projects off New England. All 5 of those massive windmill facilities can be replaced by one natural gas pipeline as far as the amount of energy to be delivered. Of course, they won't allow pipelines in New England, even though it's the safest, most efficient way to move natural gas or propane, even gasoline and oil. These are the easiest, best ways to do it, but they're resistant while they're bankrupting themselves. And the pursuit of green energy only in Michigan by 2040 is a fool's errand. I've said it from the beginning, and I'll say it again. We need real energy, oil, propane, natural gas, all of it. When I say all of the above, that's all I mean. All right. Speaking of that tunnel, Ryan Duffy will join me from Enbridge with the latest on what's happening under the Straits of Mackinac, or when it will happen. It's coming up straight ahead. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We have energy needs. America runs on vast quantities of cheap energy. And Enbridge here a number of years ago said, look, you're concerned about Line 5. It's a pipeline that's been under the Straits of Mackinac for years and years. And said, listen, we'll spend $500 million. That price, I'm sure, has since exploded because of the legal battles. They've been challenged at every step to build this tunnel that would not only allow just for energy, but for information. You can put information lines, internet services, anything you want, in fact. And in fact, they said, we'll build it. We'll give it to you, the state of Michigan. We'll have Michigan people build it. We're going to give you the keys to this when it's all done. And yet they get challenged at every step. They've had victories every step of the way, but it's a slow process. Ryan Duffy is a member of the Enbridge Communications team. He comes here from time to time to give us an update. He's here this morning. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me on. Always good to talk to you.
Always good to talk to you. Man, it is cold out there. I don't know what happens when it's this cold. It's zero. We're seeing temperature predictions of minus 10, minus 15 in the next few days. That's not pleasant to be up at the Straits. And we'll get to that, but let's start with this. Big court decision. Federal court, a big win again for Line 5. You continue to win in court, and yet they continue to put roadblocks in front of us. What was the win? Tell us about it.
Right. So the federal district court in Grand Rapids did grant our motion for summary judgment in our case, which we are, of course, happy to see. What that really does is it now prevents Governor Whitmer and the Michigan Department of Natural Resources from taking any further action to shut down Line 5. So that decision, it makes sure that both the U.S. now and Canada don't have the significant energy disruptions that you would have if you were to have a closure of Line 5. And so that's really all we've been asking for now for more than 5 years, for a judge to take a look at this issue. And that is now what's happened. As you know, state officials have been looking to close Line 5 over these last 5 years, really based on completely unsupported claims about its safety. But now the court here agreed with us and said, yes, the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, PHMSA it's called, it's really the one and only exclusive federal regulator of pipeline safety. It's the one to determine safety. And it, of course, has not taken any action against Line 5. It's not had any concerns, which really goes to show that the pipeline is safe. And we'll continue to work with PHMSA as we always have. The court also agreed there's this treaty in place to deal with this, the 1977 Transit Pipeline Treaty with Canada, which says states can't shut down an international pipeline. So definitely federal issues there with foreign affairs. But now the good news is that with this decision, that critical energy will continue to be delivered.
You know, without all these objections to the tunnel project, wouldn't you already be well down the road and a lot farther along in building this remarkable piece of engineering?
We would, for sure. I mean, we signed the tunnel agreement with the state in 2018, so we would really probably be looking to be completing construction at this point if there really weren't so many of these roadblocks and challenges. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be easy, of course, but it has been a lengthy process here. And you know, if none of that had happened, we probably would be toward completing construction.
Yeah. Now, as far as the project goes, we've seen changes in the Army Corps timeline to approve the project. Where do things stand with the schedule? You'd have been close to done by now, except for these strange objections, which I've never understood. It's a better plan. It's a better solution to everybody's concerns, and yet they've been blocked by outside groups, local groups, politicians. But where are we in the timeline today if things kind of get going?
Yeah, so as we talked a little bit about it at the end of last year, the Corps updated its timeline for a decision on our permit for the tunnel, and they've now said that's likely to be in the first half of this year here. So we're, of course, looking forward to that. We don't rest, of course. We're not taking it easy in the meantime. We're working to continue to be ready for when that decision comes along. We continue to respond to information requests from the Corps. We provide input in this process here that's gone on now for 5 years. So there's been a lot of input from us, from everybody involved, a lot of public input too, and feedback and comments. And so it has been a lengthy process, but we know, and supporters of the project know, that when this approval does happen, that'll be a major milestone, and that'll get us much closer to construction on the project.
And again, this is a tunnel that would accommodate not just energy, but basically all sorts of high-speed communications, information, and I've been talking about these big data centers and so forth. You'd be able to transmit. You can use it for whatever you want, whatever's needed in infrastructure going forward. I mean, this is a project that accommodates all those things, right?
Yeah, and that's what it was built to be, a multi-utility tunnel for whoever is interested in being in there. There is space, and we would, of course, turn over ownership of the tunnel to the state while we continue to maintain it forever and continue to do the maintenance. But the state would own it. They could lease out space in there and make money off of that. That's what it was always designed to do from the beginning, for sure.
Yeah, let me ask you this. We mentioned this off the top. I mean, it is, we're having a cold snap coming in right now like we haven't seen in a year or two, a real serious cold snap. Temperatures well below zero for overnight lows, a few days, highs in the low single digits. I mean, that's cold. What does that do for keeping an eye on Line 5? What do you do when, the ice in the straits gets so thick? How do you handle it?
Yeah, I mean, our safety measures and the work we do in the straits, that really continues. I mean, there's a lot less ship traffic there through the straits right now. The Soo locks are closed, but there are some smaller ships going through. But we continue our monitoring work even in the winter. That doesn't change. We have our operations center there monitoring the straits 24/7. And we're actually approaching a milestone there, Steve, of the 10,000th ship to pass through the straits with our monitoring systems there in place. So that's 10,000 ships we've made contact with, talked to the captain, checked the ship's anchor position to make sure it was stowed safely, made sure all of those ships are aware of Line 5's location in the straits. Along with that, we have, of course, our high definition cameras there positioned all around the straits. And so all of that continues to be used all winter. It is a little bit of a slower time, but our work continues there, same as always, to make sure Line 5 continues to operate safely, reliably, delivering that energy people need, especially the propane here in the winter. That's really when people really appreciate that more, I would say, when it gets this cold.
They're going to appreciate it this week. I guarantee you that, Ryan. They're going to appreciate it a lot. Always appreciate you as well giving us updates. It's been a slow, tedious process, but you keep chipping away at it. We're going to get there, it seems. Ryan Duffy, thank you.
Okay, anytime. Thanks, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, it's just chipping away at it. And to me, it's like, what is the objection? A high-tech deal, excuse me, to create a solution that's permanent for energy and communication and all of this. I've never understood the objections, except I think maybe some of these people do it for sport. Anyway, Line 5 will be replaced by that tunnel eventually. I don't know how many more years it's going to take. We'll find out. After the break, your prayers have been answered. Ivy will be here. Very exciting. I'll be right back. Yeah, there's something in the water today. Something in the water, that's for sure. As it's cold outside. There must be too much catnip in the feed around here. Little kitty here decided he wanted to co-host the program, which is too bad because I got Ivy here as well. Ivy, how are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
Well, me and the cat are just fine.
Well, he missed us,
I guess we were up north skiing. Boy, it was great. You were snowboarding, kids are skiing or whatever, and man, it's going to get cold though. It's going to be, what did we see? 12 degrees below zero potentially here by Friday into Saturday. The Great Lakes are at about 19% ice cover right now. That's going to accelerate quickly, just a little point of fact. So every year they're like, oh, the ice cover is lower than it's ever been. No, just wait. It'll get there. It always does. Anyhow, what's on your mind?
Like anything, climate ebbs and flows. We have cold times and we have warmer times.
That's right. I mean, climate change is real. There's no question about that. Climate change is real.
Right. We're coming out of an ice age, right? It was
just not my fault.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So this is a long, term downward warming from an ice age. But anyhow, the snowboarding was. I'm just actually getting into it. I'm learning, so it's challenging and frustrating, and rewarding all at the same time. And the storm started coming in. This crazy weather in Michigan and through the Midwest.
I
and
like
cold
the
temperatures.
Vibe. I'm going to go get some ski boots here shortly.
Yeah.
We'll update people on that, either from the ER or from the ski hill, whatever it turns out to be.
Hopefully you don't turn into a popsicle.
Climate change. It's called January in Michigan.
That's right. But I guess what I was going to say, I like the vibe of northern Michigan. I like the ski hills. I like the attitude. I like everything about it. I like northern Michigan in the summer. I like it in the winter. I just like it. Michigan's a great place.
Yeah.
It really is.
Let's pray that you don't turn into a popsicle whilst you're trying to ski.
Well, the last time I got frostbite, I was with you in Iowa. It's a long time ago.
Yes, we were hunting.
Yeah.
Interesting little story here that I found. Holy Grail 1971 Plymouth Hemi.
Yeah.
Sells for $3.3 million.
What was it, a Roadrunner?
It's a Cuda.
Oh.
Cuda convertible.
Barracuda. Really?
Yeah, I don't know if I can hold this up and you can see it, but.
There it is. $3.3 million.
Yeah, that's a pretty sweet car, but my gosh, how,
It better be really sweet. I mean,
3.3 million. It must be extremely rare.
Yeah, the convertible part of it probably makes it real rare. So it goes into somebody's garage, never to be seen again.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Hopefully they drive it around.
Maybe. I wouldn't think so.
Oh, that's too bad.
I'm looking it up now. But go ahead. What else? What else? That's a beautiful car.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So what's up with this Candace Owens? Sometimes she just says things, I think, to get clicks. But she was claiming that Charlie Kirk was a secret time traveler hunted by Matrix agents.
I saw that, yeah. Charlie Kirk's a secret time traveler, and he was being monitored by, think Matrix here, right? Think that, because that's exactly what she's saying, that these secret people were following Charlie Kirk around his entire life. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Can somebody check her meds? For the love of God, could somebody check Candace's meds, because something is not right?
Well, it just seems to be completely outrageous to claim something like that. Now, some people say there are different realms and there's quantum physics and you can go from realm to realm. I don't necessarily believe that to be true, but there are people out there that say that. Maybe they need their meds checked too in laying off the magic mushrooms. But maybe, you never know.
What's the mushroom guy's name?
Paul Stamets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, he's cool. He is. I love him. What are you going to do now? The animals have gone crazy here today. I don't know what's happening. The whole world's gone nuts here. Too much winter, too much catnip. I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. Whatever. Not much we can do about it.
No.
So I would like to tell you about 8 foods in 2026 that you can eat to boost your happiness.
I like that. Let's be happy. Let's eat.
Number 1, it's one of your favorite foods. You want to guess?
Sure. One of my favorite foods, ribeye.
Dark chocolate.
Oh, I like that too.
Dark chocolate. Number 2, bananas, a food that you hate.
Not a fan.
Coconut.
Medium.
Coffee, number 4.
Coffee should be number 1. Coffee should be number 1.
Avocado.
I like that.
Berries.
Sometimes.
Fermented foods like
Wine.
kimchi.
Bourbon.
That's not fermented food, dear.
Oh.
And that's really toxic, depending on how much you drink of it.
Sorry.
So fermented foods like kombucha, yogurt, what else? Kimchi, which you are a big fan of, or sauerkraut, also really good.
I like sauerkraut.
And mushrooms.
Love that, especially when we get our own. Those are happy foods. Chocolate and coffee. I love coffee with chocolate. I do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's great. I think we eat all those things anyway, so we'll continue to do so.
You guys ever try that mushroom coffee?
Oh yeah, I've tried it.
It's not. It doesn't taste very good. I'm not a big fan of it just because it alters the flavor of the coffee, and I'm
Rise, I think it's called Rise Coffee.
Yeah, it's not that great. I'd rather just cook mushrooms and eat mushrooms on their own.
Yeah, that's fair. Leave my coffee alone.
Exactly. So what'd you find out over there, Steve?
Coffee and bourbon, says Jeff. Big winners. That's what he says right here. Coffee and bourbon. Oh, and the car? Yeah, it's a very rare car. The convertible, I looked that up real quick. So it's worth a pile of money. Anyhow, that's all I have for today. Me and the animals that have gone wild, and they're going to be in the house. Cats go outside sometimes. They open the door when it's 0, and they just look at you and go, yeah, I don't think so. And they're not going outside.
Anyhow. Questioning their decision making.
So it is. We'll have some final thoughts on this chaotic end of the 3rd hour after this. I'll tell you this, Brock, you elicited some comments from the viewers today about the SEC always paid. Now it's just legal for everybody else when it comes to college sports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You've gotten some reactions from some folks. They agree with you, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's nice to hear. I would even welcome comments that disagree with me. That's all right.
Well, I understand. NIL, it changed sports forever so that people like Mark Cuban, like you pointed out, can buy football teams, and people in Ann Arbor and Columbus and wherever else can buy basketball teams, Oregon. Look, the California schools, the Florida schools.
Yep.
I mean, the alums that have been real successful. I mean, look, Miami is booming, right? Yep. And I don't mean the university. I mean the whole area is booming. One of the wealthiest zip codes now in America. So they're going to have...
In a limited area-wise, too. You know what's west of there, the Everglades, where it's uninhabitable.
Well, you could live there. But you're exactly right. So these, again, there's going to be, 25 schools that'll be consistently competing-ish?
Oh, maybe more than that. I mean, nobody thought Indiana would do it. And
here they are.
I mean, Kurt Cignetti's gotten a lot of college coaches fired because those other schools are like, well, wait, Kurt Cignetti went to Indiana, a doormat program, and turned them into national champions in 2 years. Why can't you do that?
Exactly.
And that's why 30 head coaches in FBS Division I,
Yeah.
the biggest division, have been fired this season.
How much does he get paid compared to the rest of the college football coaching world?
His new contract, which will take effect next year, will be over $10 million, like $11 million, something like that.
Right, but where does that put him on the
top five?
Top
I believe
five.
it's top five. I'd have to look but off the top of my head, he signed an extension back in October, and so yeah. He's
Now
in
the
top
question
five now.
is,
Huh?
I win. Google it. His comment, great. Can he do it again? Can he be consistent? My guess is probably.
They won't win the national title every year. Nobody does. But,
No, I understand that.
Competitive. They can be at the top of the Big Ten with Michigan and Ohio State and
Oregon.
and USC and Oregon. With Phil Knight, Nike money coming in.
There you go. Well, fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. It is the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, only you can save America.